There's so much old dirt now, what was probably mud at one time down in here, that you can't even see the bolt. There it is. We're back, and it's time to get busy. We have a whole lot to do, and there's no more time for fooling around. We really got to get to some of this stuff to have these vehicles done here before our goal, which is, you know, springtime, hopefully before the summer of 2023. And what I mean we have a whole lot of work to do is, one, we still have pretty much a whole truck to build, which is, this is Gramps, if you don't know the project. Gramps is a 1996 Dodge Dakota that's getting a 4.8 liter twin turbo LS 4L80E. Should be about 700 to 750 horsepower. And well, we got a lot to do here. And then this is my Dakota, which, if you're new to the channel, that engine, which is a 5.3 liter that's in Gramps right now for mock-up purposes, actually came from here. And well, it ran pretty good. I got to a personal best with a 1205 at 109 mile an hour, and was getting ready to prepare it to get the transmission rebuilt. Found out we had a cracked bell housing and some other things, and so this project turned into a might as well. And what I mean by that is, well, since we have to upgrade the transmission, we might as well upgrade to a 4L80E. While we're at it, I already have a Ford 8.8 rear end, so we might as well install the Ford 8.8 373 Posi rear end in this Dakota. I actually have a video where I pulled the 8.8 out of the junkyard somewhere down our YouTube list. Go check it out if you're interested. I kind of got a list of parts that it takes to pull that thing out of there, so it might be a beneficial video. But anyways, here's what we're going to do today. We're going to be stripping out the entire rear end of the Dakota. So that means I'm pulling all the wiring, all the battery cables, fuel system out of it, rear end, leaf springs, and eventually we're going to be pulling these leaf spring perches off. That's probably going to be the next video that we do, because I have some lowering leaf spring perches. But we got a lot of work to do today to get this thing ready so that I can actually clean it up and paint it and get it you know, nice and clean for that stuff to stick. Because now I live in Texas, and this truck has been in Texas its whole life. In fact, it's mostly been in a garage its whole life, even though it's not some fancy vehicle. It's just the way that things have ended, and I don't have any rust. You know, thank the Lord, I don't have any rust. Do have a lot of dirt because I was a dumb kid and I used to off-road this thing when it was kind of new to me. But this is also another might as well. So we're gonna coat the frame with KBS coating while we're in here. Plus, I'm going to prepare the frame to get a roll cage. So in order to prepare the frame for a roll cage, what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to box in the frame. And so that's on the list of stuff to do as well. So we'll be putting a piece of metal in this channel, at least probably from maybe there and up, because when the downriggers from the roll cage come up here and they follow it all the way down to here, you need to make sure that you have this boxed in. So anyway, we got a whole lot to do, and I think I'm just gonna start getting after pulling some of the fuel system out. So let me show you guys that. Fuel system. All right, this should not be too big of a deal. Right now, I've got the fuel cell hanging. This is the factory Dakota fuel cell, and I'm going to continue to use it for a while. and it just hangs from these two braces here, which these braces actually unbolt, which is nice, but we're not unbolting the braces. We're gonna go ahead and drop the straps on the tank, especially since the bed is off, which makes it super easy. But I've got these AN fittings I have for my custom fuel cell, or my custom fuel module, and the rest of it is just kind of some wiring that I'm gonna have to pull off, which this seems like it's gonna need two hands, and I'm not gonna be able to show you guys that while I'm holding the camera. But pull this out, we're gonna wrap some cables up and get them out the way, and then we're gonna drop that, and then we'll move on to probably pulling these leaf springs off and everything else from there. In case you've never done this yourself, obviously the bed's off. It's a whole lot easier to kind of mess with the stuff with the bed off. But this tank's only held on with 2 bolts and these straps right here. And they're 14mm bolts, and they should come off pretty easily. I've got the jack underneath the fuel cell, so hopefully it doesn't move. Carefully drop this dude out of here. There's some fuel in it, so emphasis on carefully. I don't really want to make a giant mess. Here we go. Okay, can I sneak this dude out? Ooh, it's gonna be close. We're all right. That went pretty well. Now I'm gonna work on getting this harness like removed, because I want it all up underneath the truck, because we're gonna come in here with a wire wheel and clean this frame up, which is going to be a disastrous mess, but it's going to get it ready for paint and stuff like that. So I don't really want any of this stuff getting hit with the wire wheel. I also don't want it in the way, because I want to make sure that I've got everything prepped and whatnot before we paint it. So that's not too big of a deal. And then I think the next thing I'm going to work on is trying to figure out how to get the emergency brake cable off the rear end, which I'm kind of seeing some way to do it now, but we'll get to that in a minute. So let me get all the wiring stuff out the way, and all I'm going to do for that is, like, you know, there's protrusions and stuff here and here, and I'm just going to come in here and carefully remove it all, like I said, as carefully as I can, so that it all can come out and kind of wrap underneath the truck. Might even be cleaning that up later with some loom and some things to that extent. But the next thing after that we're going to work on is this distribution block, which I think is also the what do you call it, the proportioning valve for the rear brakes. And something else we're going to think about, because we're going to be changing to a disc brake setup when we put the 8.8 in. So we're still a couple videos away from getting to that point, so we'll worry about that when we get there. But again, I'm just stripping it down today and showing you guys the progress on that. So all right, let me get this wiring done. It's nice to be making some steady progress finally on this thing. Let me show you what I got. There is the rear wiring harness on that side, and then on this side is the power harness that I made when I put the Terminator X in and relocated the battery to the trunk. So all that's down there. Was able to get it all nice and out of the way. I'm probably gonna kind of curl it up and keep it underneath the truck just to be safe. But most of the wiring's done. We're gonna move on to trying to figure out how to get the emergency brake cables off, which there's couplers right here, and then there's one probably easier to see over here. And I think if I can get these guys out by sliding them, I can pull the cable out. But I think I'm gonna have to loosen up this cable, which I can do. Shouldn't be too big of a deal. I just don't know how hard that's gonna be to undo. So let me try to go loosen up the e-brake cable. This is underneath the truck. This is my muffler. It's kind of hard to see. It's a little bit in the way, but this is the junction for the e-brake cable. And this is when you pull the cable, this is what makes it pull from that way. It's kind of hard to understand unless you're underneath here messing with it. But to loosen this up, all I got to do is loosen this nut. What's that's the wrong way. There we go. So get you a gear wrench, because if you don't have something like this, it's going to take forever. And yeah, you just kind of run it out. Probably would have made more sense for me to put some PV blaster on this thing, but it is what it is. Just to show you guys what I did, I ran it all the way out to where it's just kind of at the nub. Let's see if that gives us enough slack to try to get the e-brake cables out. I'm not really getting a lot of movement here. Oh, it did move a little bit just now. Well, that went better than I thought it was going to. I lied. I'm getting some movement. I need to push this cable up through here so I can pull it out of that gap. Holy cow, is that gonna work? Yeah, there we go. That wasn't so bad. Good to keep in mind when we do the rear end swap. Okay, so this is truck side of this, like, I don't know if you want to call it a clamp or a bridge or something for the e-brake cable, but that totally worked. So I did clean it up with some brake clean, so that's probably a must too. But yeah, just pull it out of there. I'm about to do the other side, which is a lot more disgusting. So let me get that done. Well, that one fought me a little bit more. There was a lot more dirt and grime on it. But what I can tell you I did is I used a bunch of brake cleaner and cleaned it up. And then I put a vice grip here so I could hold it. And I cleaned it up some more so I could get to this side of it. And then I put a vice grip on the end of this guy and turned it. And once it turned, it broke free and it was able to come out pretty easily. So just get them clean is a good recommendation that I have, and just keep cleaning them until you can get it to rotate, and then it should come out. Now the issue is getting them out of here, which feels like just a regular brake retainer clip. So I'm going to get a screwdriver and we're going to hit that with a hammer and get it off. Alright, let's see if we can get this from this angle. That was easy enough. Here we go. Yeah. Nice. Alright, let me do the other side. Like my tool bench here, right? Because I guess I need to buy one of those little portable ones. But guys, we're making really good progress. I've got both sides out on the e-brake cables, and I've made a decision that I'm going to pull this thing out all together by removing it at the leaf spring. But before I can do that, we got to remove the shocks. So that's where we're at now. I'm going to go ahead and pull the shocks from the housing. Both sides of these shocks are 3/4. after I'm done, I might be 10 pounds lighter on this truck. Look at all the dirt that I have accumulated over the 20 plus years that I've owned this truck. Oh well, these things happen, right? Okay, on these shocks, there's a nut underneath and a bolt up top. If you are familiar with the Dakota, you know the last time I went out, the last time I ran this thing, I did a 1.64 60 foot on an all motor cam only LS with a converter. And I did it with Lakewood traction bars, stock rear end with a locker, and factory shocks. As long as I have owned the truck, I've never changed the rear shocks out. These things are cooked. There is no rebound. I'm sure that that doesn't help my traction problem at all. But it's time for upgrades. Like I said, it's time for upgrades. Those won't be going back in it, and we've got a good plan for all this. So we're getting close to having this thing out. All right here is the brake line that goes into the rear end, or down to the rear end for the rear brakes. I've got to pull this off, if it'll come off. There we go. And I did pre-lube it with some PB Blaster. I do expect it to leak out some. That's just part of it. Now we got to get this clip off. It shouldn't be too big of a deal. There we go. Clip is off. We are leaking brake fluid, but that is removed. Turn around. Now we got to pull this off, which I don't know how it connects. Oh, there we go. Time to pull these bolts out. I think we are good. Just looking over everything, making sure it's all disconnected. Everything's looking great. I've got the rear end supported a little bit by the jack. I've got some jack stands underneath it. I'll show you guys why in a minute. This is the first time I've ever really pulled a leaf spring and rear end out of a vehicle before, so it should be fun. I do expect it to try to roll forward, and I'll have to figure that out when I get there. But yeah, here we go. Just to let you know, backside of these nuts on these spring pockets are 15/16. It's actually a bolt, not a nut. The nut is actually 3/4. So we're just gonna do all 4 of them and see how it goes. There's so much old dirt now, what was probably mud at one time down in here, you can't even see the bolt. There it is. There is a hole down there. Now I can see the bolt. Look at the amount of dirt down there. I'm going to try to hit these bolts out with this brass punch. use that one. All right, all the bolts are out. Seems like it has a good press fit. All right, they're all out. Alrighty. Pull this fit over here. Yeah, buddy. Obviously, the rear end is out. By the way, you like my pumpkin? Because I did that when I was like 19. And this is actually fluorescent paint and used to light up with a black light. That's 1999 or 2004, whenever I started with this truck. All right, I still got to break this thing down. But here we go. This thing is tore down, so we can start getting it all cleaned up. In fact, I'm probably going to come in here with a broom and get it all cleaned up first, and before we make more of a mess, which we're going to do. All right, so I still have to remove this proportioning valve and junction block, whatever you want to call it, because I've got to look into that too, because there may be a spring I need to remove, because on drum brakes, you actually have a little bit of residual pressure that stays there so that they push out like they're supposed to when you hit the brake. Disc brakes don't need that. The new rear end that's going in this truck has disc brakes on it. So we're probably gonna have to remove that spring. Because this is a drag vehicle, you don't have to worry so much about the 60-40, 70-30 front rear split. Because if you look at those front tires, they don't do a lot of stopping. The rear tires are a lot wider. And well, when you're coming down from a good pass, a good mile an hour, you kind of, it's not too bad of a thing to have a 50-50 brake distribution, which I've been told. So pulling that spring out, and if there's a piston in it, may make that 50-50, and that'll be okay. I'm still doing some research on that, so don't quote me too much. But yeah, we're gonna, next steps are we're gonna start hitting this thing with the wire wheel, getting it all nice and cleaned up. I still have some old fuel line to remove over here that's caked in mud and stuff like that, so I'm gonna be removing that, getting it out the way. And then, yeah, we're going to start getting after kind of basically restoring the rear frame of the truck. And then getting ready to put new Caltrac leaf springs, shocks, 8.8 rear end, and Caltrac bars on this truck. So, got a whole lot coming on. This is just the first episode of it. And, well, we got a lot done, and I'm super happy that we did. Oh, it's been an interesting last couple weeks, and I haven't gotten much done out here at all. I've been playing with the Bel Air, and you know, like you saw me playing with my truck a little bit, but I kind of haven't had a lot of time to dive into these projects. That is getting better, and I'm so excited to be able to get so much work done on the Dakota. And well, now I feel like this project's moving forward again, and that's always a good thing. I will say that 30 minutes a day goes a long way. So if you find yourself in a similar spot, just keep trucking along. I totally love David Freiberger's quote where he says, you know, don't get it right, just get it running. I live by that. Get your vehicles running first so you can enjoy them, and then you can fix up all the other stuff along the way as you go. That's kind of what I did with my Dakota. I got it running, driving, and did a couple of drag week events with it. Or drag and drive events with it. I didn't actually do drag week. I did a sick week and race week 2.0. But anyway, I found out some improvements that we need to do. And with the nature of these things, we're tearing it apart and we're doing that. So I'll be happy to show you the progress on the 8.8 and how it goes in. I am gonna have to get to the point where I eventually mount the 4L80E and everything in there, which I might be doing soon. I've got to do a couple things to that trans before I put it in here. I want to put a shift kit in it, and this it's a valve that basically just fixes the line pressure. So I do want to do that. Greg's about to go get the 4L80 for Gramps sent out to go get rebuilt. We do have the converters ready for all of that, so this stuff ought to be picking up pretty quick. If you're new to the channel, obviously we have a lot going on. We got a whole bunch of videos. Love you to go back and check them out. And if you like this stuff, please consider subscribing. We'd love to have you guys. If you already are subscribed, you guys are the absolute best. And let us know what you're thinking about the projects and and where we're going with them. So, all right. With that said, I think I'm gonna shut it down. I'm gonna get cleaned up out here, and we're gonna get ready to start cleaning up the frames. So I'll show you that process, and I've got all the stuff I need for that. And then I'll show you the product that I really like to use on it. I've already used it on the front of this truck before. It's called KBS, and it's almost like liquid powder coat, so it's good stuff. All right, let me get to cleaning, and we'll see you next time. Until next time, you know the deal. Y'all be good.